Questions are an immense source of leverage. Yet, like any force, this power carries an ethical cost. Wield it purely to silence or overpower others, and you become nothing more than a tactician or manipulator. Employ it with genuine intent to provoke introspection and growth, and you transcend into the realm of the philosopher. Consider Socrates, the ancient Athenian thinker, who famously navigated countless disputes without ever being definitively defeated. His success was not rooted in his certainty, but in his complete refusal to enter a debate with the objective of victory. While his contemporaries exhausted their mental resources, erecting elaborate verbal defenses, Socrates simply deployed questions. Each inquiry was crafted with the precision of a scalpel, slicing away at the opponent's argument until the entire structure disintegrated under its own inherent flaws. He never resorted to volume or arrogance. His true arsenal was silence, coupled with relentless reason. These are instruments few possess the discipline or patience to fully command. Today, I will present the 5 cornerstone questions that define the Socratic method. If you truly internalize this ancient art, you will not merely prevail in discussions, you will systematically establish psychological control over conversations, challenging situations, and even people. Be warned, this intellectual mastery is not suitable for those who crave transient attention. It is reserved exclusively for those who seek profound mastery over their external environment and, more importantly, over their own cognitive processes. Before we dissect the 5 core questions, we must establish the psychological mechanism that ensures questioning always defeats aggressive argumentation. When an individual presents a definitive argument, they expose their vulnerability. They construct a figurative tower of language and assumptions. But the structural integrity of every tower hinges on its weakest component. The Socratic practitioner does not engage in building rival towers. They dig. They delve deep beneath the surface to challenge the fundamental base of belief. When the ground supporting that belief erodes, the entire verbal structure instantly collapses. A pointed question is intellectually invisible, yet it carries the undeniable force of truth. You can't lose when you ask. While a statement is subject to factual error, a genuine question cannot be wrong. This offers a distinct psychological advantage. Arguments trigger defensiveness in the ego. Questions compel genuine thought. Socrates was keenly aware that the human ego's primary motivation is to be right. Therefore, instead of launching a direct attack, he subtly invited his interlocutors to self-map the contours of their own conviction. Upon reaching the end of that self-drawn map, they invariably discovered that their philosophical footing was built entirely upon unstable sand. For Socrates, the objective was never self-glorification. It was the liberation from self-imposed illusion. The question of evidence. How do you know that's true? This inquiry sounds deceptively simple, even benign. Yet, it acts as the psychological catalyst for complete structural failure. Every individual holds a collection of beliefs. However, nearly no one has consciously verified the actual reason behind their convictions. The vast majority of beliefs are passively inherited, mindlessly copied, or unconsciously absorbed from the crowd. When challenged, the typical responses are evasive. I heard it somewhere. Everybody knows that. Or, it's just obvious. These reflexive answers are irrefutable proof that the individual has never subjected the roots of their conviction to scrutiny. This is because 99% of people operate not by genuine thinking, but by mindless repetition. They dedicate their faith not to verified truth, but to the ideas they have encountered with the greatest frequency. Perhaps they state that societal media is the definitive root of all global problems. Perhaps they are certain that career success is impossible without an advanced university degree. Or maybe they cling to the notion that happiness is quantitatively measured by accumulated wealth. But the moment you calmly interject, "How do you know that's true?" they are left intellectually paralyzed. When a person can't defend the source of their belief, they inevitably begin to lose faith in themselves. The realization dawns that what they vigorously defended as objective truth was merely a subjective emotion thinly disguised as logical deduction. Socrates possessed the foresight to recognize that every single untested belief is inherently hazardous. The unexamined belief is not neutral. It is the force that controls you. One afternoon in Athens, a confident young man confronted him, saying, "Your philosophy is useless. Reality is the only truth." Socrates smiled and posed his signature, simple inquiry, "How do you know that's true?" The young man instantly fell back on the crowd. "Because everyone says so." Socrates then leaned closer and whispered, "Everyone or you?" Though the young man's immediate verbal response is lost to history, it is recorded that he departed in absolute silence. For the first time, he was forced to acknowledge he had never truly thought. In a work setting, when a colleague confidently asserts, "This task is simply infeasible," do not argue the point. Simply inquire, "Are you sure? Based on whose experience?" If someone tries to crush your ambition, declaring, "You're going to fail," challenge them. "What makes you so certain?" Then initiate the strategic silence. Do not attempt to score points. Silence is a profoundly deeper instrument than mere words, compelling the other person to confront the hollowness of their own thoughts. What would have to be true for that statement to be false? This singular inversion forces the entire logical structure into a state of cognitive dissonance, revealing the critical blind spot in their rationale. Its power is often so overwhelming that individuals who previously thought their knowledge was total are rendered immobile, like statues facing an impossible truth. The question of premise. What are you assuming? Every formal argument is essentially an iceberg. The small portion visible above the surface is the stated belief. The massive, invisible structure beneath the waterline consists of the untested assumptions that provide the argument its buoyancy and structure. Consider the common societal argument. People should go to college because college leads to good jobs. This surface statement seems perfectly rational. However, underneath the surface, several assumptions are hidden. You are assuming everyone wants the same kind of job. You are assuming that the value of life is measured in money. You are assuming that college always leads to success. When you systematically peel back these hidden, supporting layers, the initial argument begins to crumble under questioning, forcing the speaker into genuine reflection. This question achieves intellectual destruction not through direct assault, but through the illumination of self-awareness. It shines an unforgiving light directly onto the foundational premises no one ever stops to scrutinize. Seneca eloquently observed that we inflict far greater suffering upon ourselves through our imagination than we ever experience in reality. This suffering is rooted in the fact that most people govern their lives not by objective truth, but by untested assumptions. They might rationalize, "I need other people's approval," but they never pause to ask the fundamental question, "What makes me believe I need that?" A young auxiliary once approached Marcus Aurelius with a dilemma. "My emperor, how can I avoid being offended?" The emperor, drawing on his deep Stoic insight, responded, "By understanding that words cannot offend unless you assume they can." The question, "What are you assuming?" serves as a reflective mirror, forcing the opponent to confront the illusions that serve as the architecture of their core beliefs. When you hear a friend declare, "I'm not good enough," do not reassure them with platitudes. Ask simply, "Compared to whom?" In that moment, you've shattered the wall of comparison, attacking one of the deepest roots of human suffering. When someone argues, "Everyone should go to college," ask, "Are you assuming everyone wants the same kind of life?" This is how you strike at the argument's hidden root, the veiled, unexamined premise where the true belief lies buried. The question of humility. What evidence would change your mind? This line of inquiry functions as the ultimate diagnostic separator, drawing a definitive boundary between the rational thinker and the blind believer. A truly rational, open mind asserts that if presented with superior, verifiable evidence, it is fully prepared to change its viewpoint. In contrast, a closed, blind believer instinctively asserts that nothing could ever change my mind. The moment they make that declaration, your intellectual engagement should cease immediately, because they've already admitted that reason is no longer resident there. This is the question most people actively avoid because it forces an uncomfortable confrontation. If they admit that literally no evidence could ever change their established view, they are not engaging in thoughtful deliberation. They are worshiping their own belief. Initiate this challenge in a live exchange. If someone confidently asserts, "Crypto is just a scam," you must ask, "What kind of evidence would make you change your mind?" If their defensive reply is, "Nothing, I'd never change," you have already decisively won the argument because they've confessed they're no longer guided by logic, but by pride. This question acts as the fundamental division between the dedicated learner and the dogmatic believer. The learner possesses the adaptive intelligence to adjust their frame when truth appears. The believer, however, is consumed by the need to protect the ego, even when objective truth stands immediately before them. Epictetus provided the timeless instruction that no person can genuinely acquire new knowledge if he is convinced he already possesses all of it. This third Socratic inquiry is fundamentally a test of intellectual humility. If you are unable to articulate the type of verifiable fact that would prove your position erroneous, you have become the willing prisoner of your own rigid certainty. When an individual aggressively attempts to impose their convictions upon you, simply ask, "If new facts appeared, would you be open to re-examining your view?" If they say, "No," you've gained immediate insight into the rigid limitations of their mind. If they respond with a sincere "yes," you've successfully opened a vital door to collaborative wisdom. The question of perspective. What would someone who disagrees with you say? This powerful question compels the individual to perform an act of psychological relocation. They must temporarily vacate their own rigid perspective. For the vast majority of people, this deliberate act is the most mentally challenging task imaginable. The weak strive solely for immediate conversational victory. The intellectually capable strive for understanding. But the truly wise, they seek a complete understanding, even of the arguments presented by those who actively oppose them. This question serves as the ultimate test of comprehensive understanding. If you find yourself unable to articulate your opponent's position with complete and impartial accuracy, you have proven that you don't truly understand the issue. If someone declares, "Capitalism is the best system," you must immediately ask, what would someone who disagrees say? If the defensive reply is, "They're just jealous because they're poor," they have instantly admitted that they've never really listened. Contemporary discussions are constantly bombarded with shouting, rarely with genuine dialogue. This Socratic inquiry instills the profound wisdom that Marcus Aurelius once advocated: to understand another man's argument better than he does himself. That is the definitive pinnacle of intellectual wisdom. Picture a discussion at an old military academy. A young officer asserts, "The army is fair. Whoever breaks the rules is punished." Then an older instructor leans forward and poses the powerful counter-question: "And what if the rule itself was written by an unjust man?" The entire space falls into immediate, stunned silence. That is the instantaneous, profound power of a perspective shift. It opens a door they never consciously knew existed. In a political argument, resist the urge to immediately counter. Ask instead, if you were born in another country, would you still think the same? In a highly personal conflict, ask, if you were me, how would you feel? This single question possesses the profound capacity to melt the ice of an entire conversation, because its depth extends beyond pure logic. It taps directly into empathy. The question of universality. What would happen if everyone thought like you? This question is the definitive, final strike. It violently extracts the argument from the sterile, abstract realm of theory and subjects it to the unforgiving scrutiny of reality. Consider a seemingly noble principle. People should be free to do whatever they want as long as they don't hurt anyone. This declaration sounds highly virtuous. However, you must ask, if everyone truly lived that way, who decides what hurt means? What about emotional pain, long-term harm? Instantly, this elegant, beautiful idea begins to crumble because it cannot sustain itself when taken to the ultimate limits of its own logic. Socrates defined this intellectual maneuver as reductio ad absurdum, the process of pushing a belief to its most extreme logical conclusion to ascertain its remaining validity. Marcus Aurelius stipulated that genuine truth cannot exist solely for one individual. It must inherently be right for all. A core thought possesses objective value only if it can be successfully applied universally. If a stated principle collapses the moment it is applied to the entire population, it is not truth. It is a disguise for self-interest or selfishness. When someone attempts to minimize their actions, stating, "Relax, I only lied a little," ask, if everyone lied a little, would trust still exist? When they excuse their behavior by saying, "I did it because everyone does it," ask, if everyone thought that way, who would be the first to stop? This question functions as an unforgiving mirror. It reflects the severe, real-world consequences they desperately refuse to face. In that painful reflection, the self-comforting illusion of moral stability shatters. Advanced tactical execution. The strategic silence. After deploying the critical question, your task is complete. Say nothing more. You must allow the weight of the silence to execute the intellectual work. Silence compels the other individual to confront their own internal thoughts. Since the vast majority of people find prolonged silence unbearable, they will instinctively rush to fill the void. In this hurried attempt, they invariably disclose information or weaknesses they never intended to reveal. The clarification loop. When the response you receive is evasive, nebulous, or vague, respond with a simple inquiry. Can you explain that a bit more? Then, ask the exact same question again. Continue this looping process until they reach the inevitable realization that they don't actually understand themselves. The example trap. Force the abstract argument to confront the concrete world. Demand, "Can you give me a real example of that?" Observe how swiftly grand, theoretical statements begin to crumble when subjected to the scrutiny of practical reality. The consistency check. Utilize their past statements as a binding constraint. State, you said A earlier, and now you're saying B. How do those fit together? No individual possesses the capacity to evade their own contradictory logic forever. Eventually, their own inconsistencies will force them into a corner. The art of defense and necessary exceptions. If you find yourself subjected to the Socratic method, the key is to avoid the primal, emotional reaction. You must realize that the questioner is not launching a personal attack. They are simply testing the validity of the truth that resides within you. Remain perfectly calm and respond by shifting the conversational dynamic. That's a good question. But what's your view on it? This maneuver pulls them out from behind their defensive barrier of questions, immediately restoring balance and mutual accountability to the discussion. Crucially, you must always remember that not every interaction requires pure logic. There are specific contexts where the Socratic method should be consciously withheld. Emotional pain or anger. When an individual is overwhelmed by pain or rage, reason is incapable of providing emotional healing. Empathy is required, not intellectual dismantling. Hierarchical settings. When addressing a superior, such as a boss or a professor, an innocent question can be easily misinterpreted as an aggressive challenge. Time sensitivity. When an immediate, decisive action is necessary, too much analysis or debate kills the momentum required for action. Close relationships. In intimate relationships, too much detailed questioning feels less like genuine, attentive listening and more like a form of cold judgment or interrogation. The true Stoic philosopher's wisdom lies not merely in knowing how to articulate thoughts wisely, but in knowing precisely when to deploy that wisdom. Applying wisdom to the modern world, in the professional sphere. Instead of issuing a direct, top-down command, do it this way. Reframe your inquiry. Ask, what risks do you see if we did the opposite? The result is far greater than a simple answer. You instantly earn trust and alignment because people commit more deeply to ideas they helped create. In sales and persuasion, avoid resorting to crude pressure or aggressive pushing. Instead, lead with genuine curiosity. Ask, if everything stays the same, what will your situation look like 6 months from now? The strategically deployed question doesn't convince, it awakens clarity. And clarity is a significantly more powerful motivator for action than external persuasion. In education and parenting, replace reactive shouting with thoughtful inquiry. Ask, what do you think will happen if you do that again? That moment of enforced, guided self-reflection is where maturity begins. That's not control. It is the awakening of self-responsibility. In love and partnership, when emotional arguments escalate, your goal must not be to win the intellectual conflict. Your objective is to forge a deeper connection. Ask, what do you need most to feel heard right now? Sometimes, the factor that preserves a relationship is not cold logic, but profound empathy veiled as a sincere question. A single, honest question can do what 1,000 clever words never could. The ethics and mastery of power. The ultimate ethical lesson of Socrates' life is stark. He faced execution not because he disseminated verifiable falsehoods, but because he relentlessly posed too many questions that exposed undeniable truths. That is the fundamental principle for all who seek this power. Questions are power, and every form of power requires a governing price. Employ them to silence others, and you assume the role of the manipulator. Employ them to awaken and liberate others, and you ascend to the role of the philosopher. Your mission must be to ask, not for victory, but for universal awakening. There are three virtues you must rigorously protect in this pursuit. Intellectual humility. Recognize that you don't have all the answers. Sincere curiosity. Ask to understand, not to conquer. Collaborative thinking. Seek dialogue, not dominance. And there are four critical vices you must actively guard your mind against. Intellectual arrogance, believing you stand above others. Humiliation disguised as wisdom, using questions to wound, not to heal. Endless skepticism, tearing everything down without building anything back. The judge's mindset, believing you alone hold the truth. On the inevitable day, you confront someone who is loud, aggressively stubborn, or emotionally enraged. Remember this: you have no need to shout to assert that you are correct. You need only ask a measured, soft question to compel them into internal self-reflection. Because genuine power resides not in forcing others to listen to your voice, but in making them hear the sound of their own thoughts. Socrates bequeathed humanity one simple, profound question. Are you sure you truly understand yourself? Perhaps even now, that remains the one universal question the world has yet to answer. The 5 Socratic inquiries are not aggressive weapons designed for rhetorical debate. They are disciplined exercises in philosophical wisdom. For the Stoic mind seeking true self-mastery, they are not a path to transient victory. Don't react, but observe. Don't impose direction, but gently guide. Don't fight, but discover. Use them to question the world around you. But first, and most importantly, use them to question yourself. Because the person who finally masters the ability to ask the precisely correct questions no longer possesses any fear of the answers that follow.